Isabella had grown accustomed to silence, the kind that echoes in empty houses and hearts tired of waiting for something that might never come. Her 20 years carried the weight of an old longing, the scent of lavender she still felt in clothes stored in the closet, promises that the wind took along with Peter on that fatal curve of the Malibu highway. It was a drizzly afternoon when she was watering the hydrangeas in the mansion's garden, humming softly to chase away melancholy, when she heard unfamiliar footsteps approaching across the stone deck. Looking up, she found a man in a dark suit watching her with an intensity that made her skin crawl, blue eyes that seemed to carry private storms, a deep sadness she immediately recognized as equal to her own. Gabriel Martinez wasn't just the rich boy her mother had raised. He was a broken man searching for something he didn't know existed until he saw Isabella there, barefoot on the wet earth, with tears disguised as rain on her. Face, some encounters aren't coincidence. They're two solitudes finally discovering they can heal each other. The summer rain in Los Angeles fell heavily on the penthouse windows in Beverly Hills, but Gabriel Martinez barely noticed. His blue eyes, normally piercing and calculating, now reflected only the emptiness of someone who had just received the worst news of his life. The medical report lay there, on the marble table, with words he still couldn't fully process. Huntington's syndrome, degenerative, hereditary, reduced life expectancy. At 33, Gabriel had built a real estate empire that stretched from Manhattan Beach to Miami Beach. Luxury apartments, exclusive condominiums, shopping centers, everything bore the name Martinez Enterprises. But now, facing that diagnosis, his entire fortune of $850 million seemed insignificant. The sound of the intercom pulled him from his dark thoughts. It was Marcus, his partner and only friend since college. Days at Harvard. Gabriel, man, you didn't show up to the meeting with the Scottsdale investors. Is everything okay? Gabriel hesitated before responding. How to explain that his life had completely changed on a Tuesday morning? How to tell that the man who always controlled everything now had no control over his own body? Come up, Marcus. I need to talk to you. When Marcus entered the penthouse, he found Gabriel serving 2 shots of premium bourbon, something he rarely did. His friend knew those signs. Gabriel only drank when something very serious was happening. "Remember my mother?" Gabriel asked without preambles. "Helen, of course, a woman, complicated." Marcus chose his words carefully. "She didn't die of cancer, like I always said." Gabriel took a sip of bourbon. "It was Huntington's, the same disease that just showed up in my tests." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus had known Gabriel for 15 years, had seen his friend overcome his mother's emotional neglect, his father's absence, building a company from scratch. But now, for the first time, he saw genuine fear in his partner's blue eyes. "Gabriel, I don't want pity, Marcus. I want you to help me decide what to do with all this." Gabriel gestured vaguely at the modern paintings, Italian designer furniture, all that life he had built with so much effort. "I have no heirs. My family, well, you know how it is. What if we look for other specialists? Experimental treatments?" Gabriel shook his head. "I've already researched everything. There's no cure. I might have some good years ahead, but then—" He didn't finish the sentence. The following week, Gabriel made a decision that surprised even Marcus. He would return to Malibu, to the mansion where he had grown up. The property had been closed for 5 years since Helen's death, but he felt he needed to revisit his origins before deciding the fate of his fortune. The 2-hour drive to the coastal city gave him time to think. He vaguely remembered childhood in that house, empty corridors, whispering employees, and especially Donna Maria, the Hispanic housekeeper who had been more of a mother to him than Helen had ever managed to be. When he arrived at the Spanish-style mansion in the best neighborhood of Malibu, Gabriel found the gate ajar. He was surprised, as he had given orders for the property to remain sealed. Upon entering, he heard voices coming from the kitchen, an animated conversation between 2 women. "Mom, are you sure he won't mind us being here?" Isabella, my daughter, I took care of this boy as if he were my own son. He may have become an important man, but I know that deep down he still has the heart of that needy little boy I consoled so many nights. Gabriel immediately recognized Donna Maria's voice, now 62 years old, but still with that welcoming tone that had lulled him during childhood. He approached the kitchen and saw the two women preparing homemade apple pie, a recipe that Donna Maria always made for him when he was a child. The younger woman turned first, and Gabriel felt as if the air had been sucked from his lungs. She was about 20 years old, light skin slightly golden from the coastal sun, straight brown hair that fell to her waist, and blue eyes that seemed to hold all the serenity of Malibu mornings. She wore a simple cotton floral dress, but there was a natural elegance about her that didn't come from expensive clothes or accessories. "Gabriel?" Donna Maria dropped everything and ran to hug him. "My boy, how you've grown. You looked so handsome in the magazines, but in person—" She held his face between her hands, as she used to when he was little. "You're thinner. You're not eating properly." Gabriel let himself be hugged, feeling an emotion he hadn't experienced in years. The smell of cinnamon and vanilla in the kitchen, Donna Maria's genuine affection, the feeling of being home for the first time in decades. "This is my daughter, Isabella," Donna Maria said, pulling the young woman by the arm. "She's finishing education at UCLA and gives private lessons here in the city. Isabella, this is the Gabriel I always told you about." Isabella extended her hand with a shy smile, but her blue eyes studied him with an intensity that disconcerted him. There was something in that look. It wasn't admiration for his wealth or fame, but rather a kind of recognition, as if she could see beyond the facade he showed the world. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Gabriel. My mother talks about you so much that I feel like we've known each other for years." Her voice was soft but firm. She had the characteristic accent of Southern California, without affectation. When their hands touched in greeting, Gabriel felt an electric current run up his arm, something he hadn't experienced since. Actually, he had never experienced anything like that. "Are you living here?" Gabriel asked, trying to maintain composure. "Temporarily," Donna Maria explained, a bit embarrassed. "The apartment we rented downtown was sold, and while we can't find another place, I hope you don't mind. We're only staying in the staff quarters. We don't touch anything in the main house." Gabriel looked around the spacious kitchen with its Portuguese tiles and the huge wooden table where he had eaten so many snacks as a child. For the first time since the diagnosis, he felt something beyond despair. There was life in that house again. "Of course I don't mind. Actually," he hesitated, surprising himself with his own words. "I'm glad you're here." The house was too empty. Isabella watched him attentively, and Gabriel had the impression that she could read his thoughts. There was a maturity in those blue eyes that contrasted with her youth, as if she had lived more than her 20 years suggested. "You look tired," she said softly. "Why don't you sit down? I'll make some coffee from the farm we brought from Santa Barbara. It's special." While Isabella worked at the old stove, moving with the natural grace of someone who knew that kitchen well, Gabriel found himself watching her every gesture, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, how she hummed softly a song he didn't recognize, how her eyes lit up when Donna Maria told stories of his childhood. "Your mother told me you built an empire," Isabella said, bringing a cup of antique porcelain, probably one of the pieces Helen had bought in Europe. "It must be satisfying to see your dreams come true." Gabriel held the cup, feeling the rich aroma of coffee mix with Isabella's subtle perfume, something that reminded him of field flowers and summer rain. "Not always," he replied, surprising himself with his honesty. "Sometimes I wonder if it's worth building so much when you have no one to share it with." Isabella sat across from him, and Gabriel noticed she wore a simple silver ring on her right ring finger. She wasn't married, but there was something about that ring that suggested it had special meaning. "My grandmother always said that life isn't about what we build, but about who we touch along the way." She took a sip of coffee. "Your mother tells me you helped many families with your housing projects in Los Angeles. Isn't that sharing? Gabriel was surprised. Few knew about his social projects. He preferred to keep these actions secret, away from the media. How had Donna Maria known? Do you research people your mother cared for? He asked with a half smile. Isabella blushed slightly. It's not research, it's genuine interest. When someone is important to the person you love, you naturally want to know more about that person. The simplicity and honesty of the response touched Gabriel in an unexpected way. When was the last time someone had shown genuine interest in him, not for his bank account or business connections? They talked until the end of the afternoon about various subjects, from the country's political situation to the differences between life in the city and by the coast. Gabriel discovered that Isabella wasn't just beautiful, but also intelligent and well-informed. She had her own opinions about education, society, environment, and didn't hesitate to disagree with him when she thought it necessary. "Aren't you afraid to contradict a millionaire?" he asked, amused, after she had energetically refuted his opinion on education reform. "Why should I be?" Isabella tilted her head, genuinely confused. "Money doesn't make one person's opinions more valid than another's. And besides," she smiled, and Gabriel felt his heart race. "My mother always said you're a good person deep down. Good people like to be challenged, not flattered." When the sun began to set behind the ocean, painting the Malibu sky with shades of orange and pink, Gabriel realized he had spent hours without thinking about the diagnosis, the disease, death. For the first time in weeks, he had felt alive. "I need to go back to Los Angeles tomorrow," he said reluctantly. "But I'd like to come back this weekend, if you don't mind." "This is your house, Gabriel," Donna Maria replied. But there was something in her eyes that suggested she understood perfectly what was happening. Isabella just smiled, but Gabriel caught a special sparkle in her blue eyes. On the road back to Los Angeles, Gabriel couldn't stop thinking about the young teacher. There was something about her that intrigued him, that attracted him in a completely new way. It wasn't just physical beauty. He had known many beautiful women over the years. It was something deeper, as if she could see through all the layers of protection he had built around himself. For the first time since the diagnosis, Gabriel began to think not about death, but about life, and more specifically, about how he would like to live the time he had left. Have you ever felt that instant connection with someone you just met? That moment when it seems like destiny is whispering in your ear? Comment here below from which city you're reading this story and tell us if you've ever experienced something similar. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter of this exciting journey. In the next chapter, Gabriel and Isabella grow even closer, but a devastating secret from her past will be revealed, and it could change everything between them forever. Don't miss it. The weekend came too slowly. For Gabriel, during the 5 days he remained in Los Angeles, he found himself constantly thinking about Isabella, the way she laughed, how she questioned his opinions without fear, how her blue eyes seemed to hold secrets he wanted to discover. Marcus noticed the change immediately. "You're different," he commented during Thursday lunch at Spago, watching Gabriel absent-mindedly poke at his lobster risotto. "Since you came back from Malibu, you seem, I don't know, lighter." Gabriel sighed, putting his fork aside. "I found people from my childhood there." "People?" "Donna Maria. Remember her? The housekeeper who practically raised me. And her daughter, Isabella." Marcus raised an eyebrow. He'd known Gabriel long enough to notice when a woman had made an impact on his friend. "And what's this Isabella like?" Gabriel was silent for a moment, trying to find words that would do justice to what he had felt. "She's special. Different from all the women I've ever met. She looks at me and sees, I don't know exactly what she sees, but it's not the businessman, not the money. It's something more." "Gabriel," Marcus said carefully, "did you tell her about the diagnosis?" "No." The answer was too quick, revealing that Gabriel had thought a lot about this. "How can I?" "Hello, I'm Gabriel Martinez. I have a degenerative disease and I'm going to die in a few years." Want to have dinner with me? Maybe she deserves to know the truth. Gabriel shook his head. First, I need to understand what's happening to me. When I see her, I forget everything. The disease, the problems, even who I am. It's been a long time since I felt like this. On Friday afternoon, Gabriel took the road to Malibu, with his heart racing like a teenager going on his first date. He had bought ingredients for a complete barbecue at the Santa Monica Farmers Market. Premium beef from Texas, fresh corn, artisanal sauces. He wanted to cook for Isabella and Donna Maria, show that he knew how to do more than just close million-dollar deals. When he arrived at the mansion, he found Isabella in the garden, watering the hydrangeas his mother had planted years ago. She wore jean shorts and a simple white blouse, her hair tied in a ponytail, and was barefoot. The sight of her there, so natural and beautiful, made Gabriel stop the car just to watch. "You came back," she said, smiling when she saw him approaching with shopping bags. "I promised I would." Gabriel noticed her skin was slightly pink from the sun. "You should use sunscreen. Fair skin burns easily here by the coast." Isabella laughed, a musical sound that echoed through the garden. "Are you worried about me, Mr. Martinez?" "Maybe," he admitted, surprising himself with his honesty. They spent the afternoon cooking together. Gabriel discovered that Isabella was an excellent cook. She had learned traditional recipes from her maternal grandmother, who had come from New Mexico. While he prepared the barbecue, she made cornbread that melted in your mouth and coleslaw with a dressing that perfumed the entire kitchen. "Where did you learn to cook?" Isabella asked, watching Gabriel season the meat with a chef's precision. "Donna Maria taught me some things when I was a child. Then I lived alone for many years before becoming successful. I had to learn or go hungry." "And how was that? Living alone so young?" Gabriel hesitated. Few people knew his real story. Most of the media believed he had been born with a silver spoon. "My mother wasn't very present. When I turned 18, I decided to follow my own path. I worked as a messenger, salesman, anything that came up. It was hard, but it taught me the value of things." Isabella stopped stirring the coleslaw to look at him. "It must have been lonely." "It was." Gabriel avoided her gaze. "But you get used to loneliness when it's your constant companion." "No one should get used to that," Isabella said softly. "Everyone deserves to have someone who cares." The intensity in her voice made Gabriel finally look at her. There was something in Isabella's blue eyes, not pity, but genuine understanding, as if she also knew loneliness intimately. "And you?" he asked. "Ever been married? Dating?" Isabella unconsciously touched the silver ring she wore on her right finger. "I dated during college, Peter. We were close since childhood." "What happened?" "He died in a motorcycle accident 2 years ago." Her voice became almost inaudible. "Going to get married at the end of that year." Gabriel felt a tightness in his chest. Now he understood the subtle sadness that sometimes passed through her eyes, the maturity that seemed beyond her age. "I'm sorry," he said, and he really meant it. "It must have been devastating." "It was. For a long time I thought I'd never be able to—" She stopped, blushing slightly. "Sorry, I shouldn't be talking about this." "Why not?" "It's part of who you are." Isabella looked at him with surprise. "Most people get uncomfortable when I talk about Peter. They think they should change the subject or console me. I'm not most people." "No," she agreed, smiling for the first time since the subject came up. "You're definitely not." They dined on the deck, overlooking the lights of the city beginning to twinkle in the valley. Donna Maria had prepared a beautiful table, with white linen tablecloth and candles that danced in the night breeze from the ocean. During the meal, Gabriel discovered more about Isabella. She had grown up modestly, but had always been an excellent student. She had earned a scholarship to UCLA, where she graduated in education with honors. Now she was saving money, giving private lessons to children of the local elite, dreaming of doing a graduate degree in educational psychology. "Why education?" Gabriel asked, genuinely interested. "Because I believe education is the only real way to change the world," Isabella replied, her eyes shining with passion. Every child you teach to think critically, to dream big, to believe in themselves, is a seed of transformation planted in society. Gabriel was impressed by her conviction. When was the last time he had met someone with such pure, selfless ideals? It must be frustrating sometimes, he commented, seeing so much inequality, so many social problems. It is, but it's also hopeful. Yesterday I was helping an 8-year-old girl with math. She came to my class thinking she was stupid, that she'd never be able to learn. When she finally solved an equation by herself, her eyes lit up in a way. Isabella smiled, lost in the memory. In that moment, I knew I had planted a seed of confidence that will grow with her forever. Gabriel found himself thinking about his own legacy. Buildings, shopping centres, luxury apartments, all very concrete. But what would really remain after he was gone? What seeds had he planted in other people's lives? "Have you ever thought about having your own school?" he asked. "I've dreamed about it for years. A school where every child would be seen as unique, where there wouldn't be this pressure for grades, but for real development, where differences would be celebrated, not standardized." Isabella sighed. "But it's just a dream. Schools are expensive, and I barely have money for graduate school." Gabriel found himself overcome by an impulse he couldn't explain. He wanted to give her everything she desired, not just the school, but the whole world if she asked. The intensity of this feeling scared him. What if someone wanted to invest in that dream? He asked carefully. Isabella looked at him suspiciously. "Gabriel, I hope you're not offering what I think you're offering." "Why not?" "Because—" She hesitated, as if choosing her words carefully. "Because I don't want you to think I'm interested in you for what you can give me, and I don't want to start doubting my own motivations myself." The brutal honesty of the response left Gabriel speechless. When was the last time someone had refused something he offered? When was the last time someone worried about his intentions? "Isabella," he said softly, "if I wanted to buy your attention, there are much easier ways to do that. Then why do you want to help me?" Gabriel was silent for a long moment, watching the candles flicker in the breeze. How to explain something he himself didn't fully understand. "Because when you talk about your dreams, your eyes light up in a way that makes me want to see that light always on. Because in 2 days, you've made me feel more alive than I've felt in the last 10 years. Because—" He stopped, realizing he was being more vulnerable than he'd ever been with any person. "Because maybe I want to be part of something beautiful for once in my life." Isabella studied him in silence, her blue eyes reflecting the candlelight. Gabriel had the impression she was seeing through all his defenses, reading every truth he was trying to hide. "You're suffering," she said finally, not as a question but as a statement. Gabriel felt as if she had just put her hand directly on his deepest wound. "We're all suffering in some way," he replied evasively. "Not like this. There's something in your eyes, a sadness that goes beyond common loneliness, as if you're carrying a weight you can't share with anyone." Gabriel got up abruptly, going to the deck railing. The city lights twinkled below like fallen stars, and he wondered how Isabella could read so clearly, something he had hidden from everyone else. "Gabriel," her voice was right behind him now, "you don't have to carry everything alone." When he turned, he found Isabella standing very close, her eyes full of a compassion that almost made him break down. Without thinking, he raised his hand and gently touched her face, tracing the line of her cheek with his thumb. "You're too young to understand some kinds of pain," he murmured, "and you're too proud to accept that sometimes age has nothing to do with wisdom," she replied, covering his hand with hers. They stayed like that for a moment that seemed like eternity. Gabriel lost in Isabella's blue eyes, she silently offering a comfort he didn't know he desperately needed. It was Isabella who finally broke the moment, taking a step back. "It's getting late," she said, but her voice was hoarse with emotion. "Yes," Gabriel agreed, although the last thing he wanted was for that night to end. When he was preparing to leave on Sunday afternoon, Donna Maria pulled him aside. "My boy," she said with that maternal tone he remembered from childhood, "can I say something?" "Of course, Donna Maria. Isabella is a special girl. She's already suffered a lot in life, lost her fiancé in a terrible way. When I see her looking at you—" Donna Maria paused. "Don't play with her feelings. If you're not serious, it's better to stop here." Gabriel felt the weight of responsibility in the words of the woman who had been like a mother to him. "I would never intentionally hurt Isabella," he said. "Not intentionally, maybe. But sometimes we hurt the people we love just by not being honest with them, or with ourselves." On the road back to Los Angeles, Gabriel thought a lot about Donna Maria's words. Was he being honest with Isabella? How could he be when he had omitted the most important fact about his current life? But how could he tell? How could he look into her blue eyes and say he was dying? That any feeling she might develop for him would be temporary by nature. For the first time in weeks, Gabriel found himself thinking not just about how he was going to die, but about how he wanted to live. And increasingly, those fantasies included a young teacher with blue eyes who could see his soul with a clarity that scared and attracted him at the same time. On Monday morning, Gabriel made a decision that surprised even Marcus. He transferred most of his commercial operations to his partner and announced he would spend more time taking care of personal investments by the coast. "Have you lost your mind?" Marcus asked when Gabriel explained the decision. "Maybe," Gabriel admitted. "Or maybe I'm finally becoming sane." The following weeks established a rhythm Gabriel had never experienced before. Monday through Thursday, he took care of essential business in Los Angeles, keeping only the most important meetings and delegating much more responsibility to Marcus. On Fridays, he took the road to Malibu with his heart racing with anticipation. The mansion had been transformed. Isabella had brought life to every corner, fresh flowers in vases, books scattered around the living room, the sound of soft music echoing through corridors that had once been silent. Gabriel found himself anxiously awaiting weekends when he could simply be himself, away from business pressure and social expectations. On a May afternoon, while autumn painted the tree leaves with golden tones, Gabriel found Isabella in the mansion's library, grading tests from her private students. She was sitting in the leather armchair where he used to read as a child, reading glasses on her face, giving her an even more intellectual air. "How are the future geniuses?" he asked, approaching. "Promising," Isabella smiled, taking off her glasses. "Marina, 9 years old, finally understood fractions, and John, who has dyslexia, managed to read an entire paragraph without stuttering." Gabriel sat on the arm of the chair, close enough to smell Isabella's subtle perfume, something that reminded him of jasmine and summer rain. "You love what you do, don't you?" "I do. I can't imagine doing anything else." She looked at him curiously. "And you? Do you love building buildings?" Gabriel hesitated. No one had ever asked that so directly. "I used to love it. The challenge, the satisfaction of seeing a project become reality. But lately," he stopped, looking for the right words. "Lately I've been wondering if I build things or just move money from one place to another. What difference does it make if in the end people have somewhere to live? My apartments cost millions. People who really need housing can't afford them." Gabriel ran his hand through his hair, a gesture Isabella had learned to recognize when he was agitated. "Sometimes I think I only contribute to increasing the inequality you want so much to fight." Isabella studied his face for a moment, then got up and went to the bookshelf, pulling out an old photo album. "Your mother showed me this before you arrived," she said, opening the album to a specific page. "Do you recognize this?" Gabriel looked at the photo and felt a tightness in his chest. It was an image of him at 12 years old, at a construction site, wearing a yellow hard hat disproportional to his head. Beside him, an older man, Mr. Miguel, the construction foreman who had taught Gabriel about construction during school vacations. "I remember," he said softly. "Mr. Miguel used to take me to see the construction sites. He said I had a builder's eye." "And what were you building in this photo?" Gabriel examined the image more closely. In the background, he could see the initial structures of a simple housing complex. It was a city project, low-income housing for families. "And you participated?" "I helped with what I could," carrying bricks, mixing mortar. Gabriel smiled at the memory. Mr. Miguel said I was the best junior helper he'd ever had. Isabella turned the page, revealing more photos of the project. Entire families smiling in front of finished houses, children playing in small yards, elderly people resting on porches. These people lived in these houses for years. Some still do. You helped build not just walls, Gabriel, but homes, stories, futures. Gabriel felt something moving inside his chest, an emotion he couldn't completely identify. Why are you showing me this? Because sometimes we need to remember who we were before deciding who we want to be. Isabella closed the album and looked into his eyes. The boy in this photo grew up and became successful, but his dreams, did you abandon those along the way? Before Gabriel could respond, Donna Maria appeared in the library doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but Gabriel, there's a man here looking for you. Says he's your partner. Gabriel frowned. Marcus knew he didn't like to be bothered on weekends, especially in Malibu. It must be important, he murmured to Isabella. I'll be right back. He found Marcus in the living room, visibly agitated, holding a brown envelope. Gabriel, we need to talk. Alone. Gabriel indicated the office, noticing that Isabella discreetly withdrew to give them privacy. What happened, Marcus? We received a purchase offer. The entire Martinez Enterprises group. Marcus placed the envelope on the table. $500 million. Cash. Gabriel picked up the envelope but didn't open it immediately. From whom? International Consortium. They want to expand in the American market. The offer is good, Gabriel, very good. And why did you think it necessary to come here to tell me this? Marcus hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. Because I know you're going through a difficult time. With the diagnosis and everything, maybe it's the right time to liquidate assets, secure your financial future. And, he paused, maybe it's time for you to enjoy life while you can. Gabriel opened the envelope and examined the proposal. The numbers were impressive, more than he had imagined the company was worth. With that money, he could do anything, go anywhere, buy any experience he desired in the years he had left. When do they want an answer? 2 weeks. Gabriel nodded, putting the papers back in the envelope. I'll think about it. Gabriel, Marcus said, getting up to leave, are you sure you're making the right decisions? I mean, about staying here, about... He gestured vaguely. About all this? Are you're questioning my judgment? I'm worried about you. Since you started coming here, you've changed. Not that it's bad, but are you sure you're not running away from your problems instead of facing them? After Marcus left, Gabriel remained alone in the office, looking out the window at the garden, where Isabella was watering plants. The afternoon sun illuminated her brown hair, creating golden reflections that danced with each movement. Was he running away, or was he finally living? That night, during dinner, Gabriel was quieter than usual. Isabella noticed, of course. She always noticed. Everything okay? She asked when Donna Maria retired to the kitchen. Marcus brought a business proposal, a big decision I need to make. Want to talk about it? Gabriel studied her. How could he explain that the decision wasn't just about business, but about his entire life? How could he tell that he was considering selling everything because he didn't know how much time he had to enjoy it? It's complicated, he said finally. The best decisions usually are. They finished dinner in contemplative silence, then headed to the deck. It had become a ritual. Sitting on the wooden swings Gabriel had installed the previous week, watching the stars and talking about everything and nothing. Isabella, Gabriel said suddenly, if you knew your life was going to change drastically soon, what would you do? What kind of change? Any kind. Something you couldn't control. Isabella swayed, gently on the swing, thinking about the question. I think I'd try to live each day so that when the change came, I wouldn't have regrets about how I used the time I had before. And if the change was definitive, even more reason to live intensely. She looked at him curiously. Why are you asking this? Gabriel felt the weight of the secret he was carrying. Every night he went to sleep thinking about telling Isabella the truth, and every morning he found a new excuse to postpone the conversation. Just philosophical curiosity, he lied. Gabriel, Isabella said softly, you know you can trust me, don't you? The sincerity in her voice almost broke his resolve. How did she manage to do this? Offer comfort and understanding, without even knowing what he needed to be consoled for? I know, he replied, and it was true. If there was anyone he could trust, it was Isabella. But how to tell? How to look into those blue eyes that shone with so much future and hope, and say that any feeling she might develop for him would be temporary? That night, Gabriel stayed awake late, walking the mansion corridors as he did when he was a child and couldn't sleep. The house was silent, but he could feel Isabella's presence in the room that had been Donna Maria's years ago. He stopped in front of her door, his hand raised to knock. He wanted to enter, wanted to tell everything, wanted to ask for help carrying the weight that was crushing his shoulders. But when he imagined the expression she would have when she knew the truth, the pity, maybe the rejection, his hand fell back to his side. Not yet. He wasn't ready to risk losing the only good thing that had happened in his life. The next morning, Isabella found him in the kitchen preparing scrambled eggs with cheddar cheese, a recipe Donna Maria had taught them both. Didn't sleep well? She asked, noticing the dark circles under his eyes. A little. Too much on my mind. Isabella approached and, without warning, gently touched his forehead. No fever, but it seems like something is consuming you from the inside. The intimacy of the gesture, the genuine concern in her voice, her proximity, all of this combined to break something inside Gabriel. He turned to her, took her face in his hands, and kissed her. It was a desperate kiss, full of everything he couldn't say in words, all the feelings he had been repressing, all the fear, all the passion that grew each day. Everything poured out in that moment. Isabella remained still for a second, then returned the kiss with an intensity that surprised him. Her hands closed on his shirt, pulling him closer, as if she wanted to absorb all the pain she felt emanating from him. When they finally separated, both were breathing heavily. "Gabriel," Isabella whispered, her forehead against his. "What's happening?" He struggled to find words. "I don't know how this happened. I wasn't planning to feel this. And what is this?" Gabriel looked into her eyes, seeing his own reflection in her blue irises. "I think I'm falling in love with you," he admitted, his voice hoarse with emotion. "And that terrifies me." "Why does it terrify you?" "Because," he hesitated on the edge of total truth, "because I don't know if I deserve you, because our lives are very different, because maybe I'm not the right man for you." Isabella held his face, forcing him to look into her eyes. "Let me decide that," she said firmly. "Gabriel Martinez, you may have money, power, success, but that's not what attracts me to you. What attracts me is the man who stays awake late, worried about his decisions. The man who learned to cook because he had no one to take care of him. The man who looks at an old photo and fondly remembers a construction foreman who was kind to him." "Isabella, I'm not finished." She smiled, and Gabriel felt his heart race. "What attracts me is the man who sees my dreams and wants to help realize them, not because he wants to impress me, but because he genuinely believes in them. The man who can be vulnerable, who lets his defenses down when he's with me." Gabriel felt tears pressing behind his eyes, something that hadn't happened in years. "You don't know everything about me," he murmured. "Then tell me everything." And Gabriel almost told. The words were on the tip of his tongue. The disease, the prognosis, the fear. But when he looked at Isabella, so beautiful and full of life in the morning light, he couldn't destroy that moment with his dark reality. "One day," he promised, "when the time is right." Isabella studied him for a long moment, and Gabriel had the impression she knew there was more to the story than he was telling. But she didn't press. "Okay," she said finally. "But Gabriel, don't protect me from yourself. I'm stronger than you think." They spent the rest of the morning in a different kind of intimacy. Not physical, but emotional. They talked about fears, dreams, regrets. Gabriel told about the loneliness of his childhood, about how he had learned to depend only on himself. Isabella spoke about the pain of losing Peter, about how she had thought she'd never be able to love someone again. "But when I met you," she said, her head resting on his shoulder as they watched the city movement below, "I realized that maybe I was just waiting for the right person." "And what if I'm not the right person?" Gabriel asked. "And what if you are?" They spent the rest of the night talking about possibilities, dreams, fears. Gabriel told about the symptoms he had begun to notice, small occasional tremors, moments of mental confusion. Isabella spoke about her experience caring for her grandfather, who had died of Alzheimer's. "It won't be easy," she said honestly. "No," Gabriel agreed, "but it will be better than facing it alone." When they finally separated to sleep, Gabriel felt lighter than he had felt in months. There were still challenges ahead, huge challenges, but for the first time since the diagnosis, he had hope, and he had Isabella. The next morning, Gabriel woke to the sound of raised voices coming from the living room. When he went downstairs, he found Marcus arguing with Donna Maria, while Isabella watched everything with a worried expression. "What's happening?" Gabriel asked. "This friend of yours is saying you've gone crazy," Donna Maria said, clearly irritated. "That you're making irresponsible decisions because of—" She looked at Isabella. "Because of inappropriate influences." Gabriel felt anger rising in his chest. "Marcus, what exactly did you say?" "Gabriel, you need to be realistic. This situation here is clearly affecting your judgment. You can't make decisions worth hundreds of millions based on—" Marcus gestured vaguely at Isabella. "On romantic impulses." "Careful," Gabriel said, his voice low and dangerous. "Gabriel, I understand. She's beautiful. You're going through a difficult time. You want to feel alive, but mixing this with business decisions." "Marcus," Gabriel's voice had a clear warning tone. "Do you think she'd be interested in you if it weren't for the money? A 20-year-old girl from the suburbs. Be realistic, Gabriel." Gabriel's fist found Marcus's face before he could control himself. His partner staggered backward, holding his bleeding nose. "Get out of my house," Gabriel said, his voice dangerously calm. "Now." "Gabriel, I was trying to—" "Get out!" Marcus looked round the room, at Donna Maria with her furious eyes, at Isabella, who remained calm but clearly shaken, at Gabriel, trembling with rage. "You're going to regret this," he said, picking up his briefcase. "When she leaves you at the first difficulty, you'll remember what I said." After Marcus left, the silence in the room was tense. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," Gabriel said. "Don't apologize," Donna Maria replied firmly. "That man needed to hear some truths for a long time." Gabriel looked at Isabella, who had remained quiet during the entire confrontation. "Are you okay?" "I am," she said, but Gabriel could see that Marcus's words had affected her. "Gabriel, can I talk to you? Alone?" They went to the garden, walking in silence to the gazebo Gabriel had built the previous month. "He wasn't completely wrong," Isabella said finally. "What do you mean?" "We are very different, Gabriel. I really am a 20-year-old girl from humble origins. You're a millionaire. Businessman of 33. Sometimes I wonder what? If I'm not being naive, if I can really be part of your world." Gabriel held her hands. "Isabella, look at me. My world. My world was empty before you arrived. Meetings, business, empty apartment, empty bed, empty life. You're not entering my world. You're showing me that a better world exists. But people will think—" "Screw people." Gabriel pulled her closer. "Isabella, I have a terminal illness. I don't have time to worry about what people think. I only have time for what really matters. And what really matters, you, us. This feeling I have when I'm with you, like I'm finally home." Isabella studied him for a long moment, then smiled, that radiant smile that always made his heart race. "Then let's make it work, no matter what they say." "Let's make it work," Gabriel agreed, kissing her softly. But even as he kissed her, a part of him wondered if Marcus hadn't planted a seed of doubt that would grow. Over time, what if the differences between them really were too great? What if love wasn't enough? Have you ever had to choose between love and security, between staying by the side of someone you love, even when everything is falling apart? Comment here from which city you're watching and tell if you've been through a similar situation. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. In the next chapter, Gabriel could lose everything: money, company, freedom. Isabella needs to make the most. Difficult decision of her life: stay by his side or protect her own future. And when everything seems lost, an unexpected twist changes the game completely. You won't believe what happens. The following weeks brought significant changes to Gabriel's life. First, he fired Marcus and took full control of the company, discovering in the process some financial irregularities his ex-partner had hidden. Second, he began completely reformulating Martinez Enterprises projects, directing 40% of profits to social housing and educational programs. Third, and most importantly, he decided not to sell the company. Instead, he began working with lawyers to create a foundation that would ensure his social projects continued after his death. "Are you sure about this?" asked Dr. Ricardo Mendez, his new lawyer, while they reviewed documents in the mansion office. "It's a very significant amount." "I'm sure," Gabriel replied, looking out the window where Isabella was playing with children she had brought for a tutoring class in the garden. "I want this to continue long after I'm gone." Isabella had begun giving free classes to underprivileged children in the region 3 times a week at the mansion. Gabriel had transformed the old music room into an improvised classroom, and the sound of children's laughter had returned to those corridors for the first time in decades. "And about Miss Isabella?" Dr. Mendez asked delicately. "You mentioned you'd like to secure her future as well." Gabriel hesitated. He had thought a lot about this, but hadn't talked to Isabella yet. "Leave it open for now. I need to talk to her first." That night, after the children left and Donna Maria retired, Gabriel found Isabella in the library, grading her students' exercises. "How was class today?" he asked, sitting in the armchair next to the table where she worked. "Wonderful. Carla finally understood multiplication tables, and Miguel read an entire page without stuttering." Isabella smiled, but Gabriel noticed a tiredness in her eyes that hadn't been there a few weeks ago. "Are you okay? You look exhausted." "I'm fine, just it's a lot. The private lessons, the classes here, helping my mother with the house, studying for graduate school." She rubbed her temples. "Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to be 5 people at once." Gabriel knelt beside her chair. "Isabella, you don't have to do everything alone. Let me help." "Gabriel, we've already talked about this. I'm not talking about buying your things or solving your problems. I'm talking about being your partner, about sharing responsibilities." Isabella looked at him curiously. "What are you suggesting?" Gabriel took a deep breath. It was time to have the conversation he'd been postponing. "I'm suggesting you move here, officially, as my—" he hesitated. "As my partner." The silence that followed was long. Isabella put down her pen and studied him carefully. "Gabriel, are you asking me to live with you?" "I'm asking for much more than that." Gabriel held her hands. "I'm asking you to build a life with me, whatever time I have." "And after?" Gabriel swallowed hard. It was the question he feared most. "After you continue living, continue realizing your dreams, with the necessary resources to do everything you always wanted." "Ah," Isabella's voice became cold. "Now I understand. You want to turn me into your heiress." "It's not that, isn't it?" Isabella got up, walking to the window. "Gabriel, do you want me to give up my independence to become your— what? Your rich widow?" "Isabella, please listen." "No." She turned to him, and Gabriel saw tears in her eyes. "You don't understand, Gabriel. I don't want to be the woman who got rich because her boyfriend died. I don't want people to look at me and think, poor thing, at least she was left well off." Gabriel felt as if she had just punched him in the stomach. "Then what do you want?" "I want you alive. I want us to fight about silly things like what movie to watch on Sunday. I want you to complain when I leave hair in the bathroom drain. I want normalcy, Gabriel. I want a normal life with you." "But I can't give you that," Gabriel said, his voice broken. I can't give you a normal life. I can't give you children who grow up with their father. I can't give you 50 years of happy marriage. And you think I don't know that? Isabella was crying openly now. You think I don't think about that every day? That I don't wonder if I'm crazy? For falling in love with someone who... She couldn't finish the sentence. Gabriel approached her, but Isabella stepped back. I need time to think, she said. About all this. About us. Isabella, please, Gabriel, just give me some time. Gabriel spent the next 3 days in Los Angeles, trying to distract himself with work, but only managing to think about Isabella. When he returned to Malibu on Friday, he found the house strangely quiet. Where's Isabella? He asked Donna Maria. She went to Los Angeles to visit a college friend, Donna Maria replied, but didn't look him in the eyes, said she'd be back Sunday. Gabriel knew it was a lie. Isabella had run away. He spent the weekend alone in the mansion, walking the same corridors where he had felt so happy in recent weeks. Now they seemed empty again, echoing with his own loneliness. On Sunday night, when he was almost giving up hope she'd return, he heard the sound of a car in the driveway. Gabriel ran to the window and saw Isabella getting out of a taxi, carrying a small suitcase. He ran down the stairs, reaching the front door, just as she was about to insert the key. You came back, he said, breathless. I came back, she confirmed, but her expression was hard to decipher. And? Isabella entered the house and put the suitcase on the floor, then turned to him. I talked to some people, my psychologist, some friends, my cousin who's a doctor. She took a deep breath, and I came to some conclusions. Gabriel felt his heart race. First conclusion, you're right about us not being able to have a completely normal life. The disease is real, and it will get worse. Gabriel nodded, preparing for the worst. Second conclusion, I'm hopelessly in love with you, and that won't change just because our situation is complicated. Gabriel's heart jumped. Third conclusion, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. No treating me like I'm going to break. No trying to solve all my problems with money. No making decisions about our future without consulting me. Isabella, I'm not finished. She approached him. Fourth conclusion, I want to stay with you. I want to build something real, even if it's temporary, but with conditions. What conditions? First, we continue living separately for now. I want our decision to live together to be about love, not about convenience or fear. Gabriel nodded. Second, no wills or inheritances for now. When we've been together longer, if it still makes sense, we'll talk about it. And the third, Isabella smiled and Gabriel felt as if the sun had risen again. Third, you stop trying to protect me from yourself. If we're going to face this, we face it together, as real partners. Gabriel pulled her into his arms, kissing her with an intensity that surprised them both. I love you, he murmured against her lips. I love you so much it hurts. I love you too, she replied, and that's why we're going to make this work. But even as they kissed, neither knew that a storm was forming on the horizon, a storm that would test not only their love, but their very survival. On Monday morning, Gabriel received a call that would change everything. Mr. Martinez, the voice was Sandra's, his new assistant. You need to come to the office immediately. There are representatives from the IRS here, and they have search and seizure warrants. Gabriel felt his blood freeze. What do you mean? Marcus Ferreira gave testimony against you. He's alleging tax irregularities, money laundering, several serious accusations. Gabriel closed his eyes, feeling the world collapse around him. I'm on my way. When he hung up, he found Isabella watching him with concern. What happened? Gabriel quickly told about the call, seeing her expression change from concern to shock. But you didn't do any of that, did you? Of course not. But Marcus had access to all the company's financial files. If he wanted to fabricate evidence, Gabriel ran his hands through his hair. Isabella, this could be very serious. It could mean prison, loss of all assets. Then we fight. The simplicity of the answer surprised him. Isabella, you don't understand. If I go to prison, if I lose everything, Then we face this together. She held his hands. Gabriel, remember what we agreed. Real partners. That includes the bad parts. Gabriel looked into those blue eyes, seeing determination where he expected to find fear. It could get very ugly. Then, let it get ugly. I'm not going anywhere. And for the first time since receiving the Huntington's diagnosis, Gabriel felt truly hopeful. Not because his problems had disappeared, but because he finally wasn't facing them alone. Has anyone there ever had to choose between love and security, between staying by the side of someone you love, even when everything is falling apart? Comment from which city you're watching and tell if you've experienced a similar dilemma. Like and subscribe to the channel. In the final chapter, the most emotional wedding you've ever seen, a medical discovery that changes everything, and the most beautiful and unexpected ending to this story. Get ready to cry with emotion. Don't miss it. The months that followed were the most challenging and, paradoxically, the most rewarding of Gabriel's life. The IRS investigation proved to be a bureaucratic nightmare. Every document contested, every transaction questioned, every business decision dissected by auditors, who seemed determined to find irregularities. Marcus had been meticulous in his revenge. For years, he had created a complex network of dubious transactions, always keeping Gabriel in the dark, but leaving traces that suggested the involvement of the principal partner. Accounts in tax havens, overpriced contracts, donations to phantom NGOs, all carefully orchestrated to seem like Gabriel's decision. The good news, said Dr. Mendez during a tense meeting at the Los Angeles office, is that we managed to prove you had no knowledge of most of these transactions. The bad news is that as majority partner, you are legally responsible. Gabriel looked out the office window, seeing the city stretch to the horizon. In a few months, he might lose all of that. What's the most realistic scenario, he asked. Heavy fine, maybe 60% of assets. House arrest for a few months. Community service. You probably won't go to jail, but Dr. Mendez hesitated. The company may not survive the legal costs and penalties. That night, Gabriel returned to Malibu, carrying the weight of another impossible decision. He found Isabella in the kitchen preparing a spinach lasagna. She had discovered that cooking helped her deal with the stress of recent months. How did it go? She asked, without turning from the stove. Gabriel approached from behind, wrapping her in his arms and burying his face in her hair that smelled like lavender. It could be the end of everything, he murmured. Isabella turned in his arms, gently touching his face. Of your money, maybe, but not of everything that matters. Gabriel smiled sadly. In recent months, Isabella had become his anchor. When news about the investigation leaked to the press, when former friends began avoiding him, when his reputation was destroyed in sensationalist tabloids, she remained by his side with unwavering loyalty. Don't you regret it? He asked. Getting involved in all this mess? The only thing I regret, Isabella said, kissing him softly, is the time we wasted at the beginning because you were trying to protect me. During dinner, Gabriel told the details of the meeting with the lawyers. Isabella listened to everything in silence, asking pointed questions, demonstrating an understanding of legal aspects that impressed him. There's something I didn't tell you, Gabriel said when he finished explaining the situation. Dr. Mendez suggested a strategy that could save part of the assets. What strategy? Marriage. If we get married, I can transfer some assets to you before the final sentence. The separate property regime would protect those properties. Isabella put down her fork, her expression becoming serious. Gabriel, are you proposing to me to protect your money? No. The answer was too quick, revealing he had thought a lot about this. I mean, not just for that. Isabella, I want to marry you. I wanted to propose in a more romantic way, under better circumstances, but the circumstances are these, Isabella finished. Gabriel, do you love me? More than life itself, and I love you. So the question isn't whether we want to get married. The question is whether we want to get married for love or for convenience. Gabriel remained silent, recognizing her wisdom. If we get married now, Isabella continued, there will always be a shadow of doubt. Your motivation's mine. People will say I married you for money, and you'll wonder if that's why I accepted. But you'd lose the chance to have financial security for the rest of your life. Isabella laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Gabriel, don't you understand yet? I don't want financial security. I want you, alive, fighting, present. If you lose everything and we're left with just this house and a modest bank account, we'll still have more than most people. Gabriel felt tears pressing behind his eyes. What if I can't give you the life you deserve? The life I deserve is a life with you. Simple as that. They decided to wait. They wouldn't marry while the legal situation wasn't resolved. It would be a marriage for love or no marriage at all. The weeks passed slowly. The investigation dragged on, and Gabriel began to notice the first more evident signs of Huntington's disease. Occasional tremors in his hands, moments of mental confusion, subtle changes in his coordination. Isabella noticed too, but never commented directly. She just made sure he took his medications and kept his medical appointments. On a September afternoon, while Gabriel worked in his improvised office at the mansion, Isabella entered carrying a pile of papers. "What's this?" he asked. "Research," she said, sitting in the chair facing his desk. "About Huntington's disease. Experimental treatments, clinical studies, research centers." Gabriel looked at the papers, seeing printed medical articles, information about specialized hospitals, data on new medications. "Isabella, there's a clinic in Houston doing tests with gene therapy, another in Zurich working with stem cells, and here in America at Johns Hopkins there's a research group recruiting patients for a new protocol." Gabriel held her hand. "My love, I've already researched all this. The chances are minimal, and even if it worked, we'd have more time, maybe years more, maybe decades. Or maybe we'd spend the few good years we have chasing a cure that doesn't exist." Isabella was silent for a moment, studying the papers spread across the table. "What if I want to try? What if I want to fight for every extra day we can have?" Gabriel looked at her, really looked. In recent months, Isabella had matured in ways that went beyond her age. The delicate lines around her eyes spoke of nights lost worrying about him. The determination in her expression revealed a strength he was only beginning to fully understand. "Then we try," he said simply. The next day, Gabriel received a call that changed everything again. "Mr. Martinez?" It was Dr. Mendez, and his voice had a different quality. "I need to see you immediately. We have news about the case." Gabriel and Isabella headed to Los Angeles, both their hearts racing with expectation and fear. In the lawyer's office, they found a surprise, a woman of about 40, well-dressed with a determined expression. "Gabriel," Dr. Mendez said, "this is Patricia Rodriguez, former employee of Martinez Enterprises Accounting." Gabriel didn't remember her. The company had had hundreds of employees over the years. "Miss Patricia has some information that could completely change your case," Dr. Mendez continued. Patricia leaned forward, her hands trembling slightly. "Mr. Martinez, I worked directly with Marcus Ferreira for 5 years. He forced me to falsify documents, to create fictitious transactions. He said if I didn't cooperate, I'd lose my job, and he'd make sure I never got to work in accounting again." Gabriel felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. "Why are you saying this now?" "Because I saw on the news that you could go to prison for things you didn't do, and because—" She hesitated. "Because my daughter is sick, and I need money for treatment. Marcus promised to pay me well to stay quiet, but he disappeared after making the accusation." Dr. Mendez placed a folder on the table. Ms. Patricia brought copies of all original documents, compromising emails from Marcus, recordings of conversations where he admits to fraud. "Gabriel, this not only clears you, it could put Marcus in jail for a long time." Gabriel looked at Isabella, seeing tears of relief in her eyes. "How long until everything is resolved?" Isabella asked. "With this evidence? A few weeks? maybe a month for all documents to be processed and the case officially closed. Outside the office, Gabriel and Isabella walked in silence through the streets of Los Angeles. It was a warm spring afternoon, and the city was teeming with life. Around them, "It's over," Isabella said finally. "It's over," Gabriel agreed. They stopped at a small square, sitting on a bench under a blooming jacaranda tree. "Gabriel," Isabella said, taking his hand, "now that this is over, can I ask you a question?" "Anyone. Will you marry me?" Gabriel laughed, a pure and happy sound that echoed through the square. "Are you proposing to me, Miss Isabella?" "I am. And before you answer, I want you to know, it's not for money, not for security, not for pity. It's because I love you and want to build a life with you, whatever time we have." Gabriel knelt right there in the square, in the middle of curious passers-by and playing children. "Isabella Martinez Silva," he said, using the name she would have after marriage. "Will you marry me? Will you put up with me in good days and bad, in sickness and health, in wealth and poverty?" "I will," she said, tears streaming down her face, "but with one condition." "What?" "That we throw a beautiful party with barbecue, country music, and all our friends, that it's a real celebration." Gabriel kissed her right there in the middle of the square, under the flowering tree, with the sounds of the city around them and the future, uncertain but full of love, stretching ahead of them. 3 months later, at the Malibu mansion decorated with field flowers and string lights, Gabriel and Isabella got married. Donna Maria cried throughout the ceremony. The children Isabella taught through rose petals. The party lasted until dawn, with guitar, accordion, and the best of American barbecue. But the most special moment wasn't during the ceremony or party. It was the next morning, when Gabriel woke up and found Isabella in the kitchen, making coffee, wearing a simple nightgown and humming softly. "Good morning, wife," he said, hugging her from behind. "Good morning, husband," she replied, turning to kiss him. In that moment, Gabriel completely understood what Isabella had tried to teach him during all those months. Life wasn't about how much time you had, but about how you used that time. It wasn't about what you accumulated, but about what you built with the people you loved. 6 months after the wedding, Gabriel received a call from Johns Hopkins. The experimental treatment had shown promising results in initial tests, and they would like him to participate in the program. It was risky, without guarantees, but there was hope. "What do you think?" he asked Isabella as they walked through the mansion garden, the same garden where she had been watering flowers the day they met. "I think we have to try," she said, stopping to touch a rose that had just bloomed. "But not because we're desperate, because we're hopeful." Gabriel looked at his wife, her brown hair shining in the morning sun, her blue eyes reflecting all the determination and love that had defined her since the first day, her hands holding his with a strength that had surprised him since the first time they touched. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For teaching me it's worth fighting, for showing me that love isn't about time, it's about intensity, for making me want to live." Isabella smiled, that radiant smile that had illuminated his life since the first day. "Thank you," she said, "for letting me love you, for trusting me, for building with me the kind of love I thought only existed in books." They continued walking through the garden, planning the future, the school they would finally build together, the social projects they would expand, the treatments they would try, the children they might adopt if doctors allowed. And if they wondered for a few moments whether it would be selfish to bring children into such an uncertain situation, Gabriel remembered something Isabella had said months ago. "All love is temporary, Gabriel. The difference is that some are honest about it." It was true for relationships, for families, for entire lives. Nothing was permanent, but that didn't make love less valuable. It made it more precious. That afternoon, Gabriel called Dr. Silva at Johns Hopkins and enrolled in the experimental program, not because he was sure it would work, but because he was sure he wanted to fight for every day he could have with Isabella. 2 years later, Gabriel was in the front row of a small school in Malibu, watching Isabella receive the first group of students at Future School, the name the children themselves had chosen. The experimental treatment had significantly slowed the disease's progress, and while it wasn't a cure, it had given them the gift of time. Time to build Isabella's dream school. Time to create programs that had helped hundreds of needy families. Time to travel together through South America, visiting social projects and being inspired by other initiatives. Time to adopt two sisters, Maria Clara, 6 years old, and Ana Beatriz, 4, who had lost their parents in an accident and needed a family. Daddy Gabriel, Maria. Clara whispered during the school's opening ceremony. "Are you crying?" Gabriel wiped his eyes, smiling at the girl who had become his daughter in every way that mattered. "These are tears of happiness, my love," he said. "Why?" Gabriel looked at Isabella, radiant in her light blue dress, explaining to children and parents how the school would work. He looked at Ana Beatriz, sleeping in his arms, wearing a yellow dress that Donna Maria had sewn. He looked around the classroom they had designed. Together, full of natural light and colorful walls where children could express their creativity. "Because," he said to Maria Clara, "sometimes life gives us gifts we didn't know we were waiting for." That night, after putting the girls to bed, Gabriel and Isabella sat on the mansion's deck, now also home to a real family. The stars shone over Malibu, and the sound of crickets created a nighttime symphony. "Do you regret anything?" Isabella asked, her head resting on his shoulder. Gabriel thought for a moment. Recent years had been intense. Medical treatments, school construction, adoption process, adaptation to family life. There were difficult moments, financial crises after legal penalties, nights in hospitals, discussions about how to raise the girls. But regret? No. "I regret taking so long to meet you," he said finally. "Wasting so many years building buildings instead of building a life. You didn't waste anything. You needed to be who you were to become who you are. Now." Gabriel kissed her forehead, breathing the jasmine perfume she still wore. "And you? Do you regret choosing such a complicated life?" "The only thing I regret," Isabella said, echoing words she had said years ago, "is not meeting you earlier. But then I think maybe we met exactly at the right time, when you needed to learn to live, and I needed to learn to love again." They remained in silence for a moment, watching the city lights twinkling in the valley below. "Gabriel," Isabella said, softly, "regardless of what happens from here on, I want you to know something." "What?" "You gave me the most beautiful life I could have imagined, not for the mansion, not for the money, not for the trips, but because you taught me that true love isn't about guarantees or certainties. It's about choosing every day to build something beautiful together." Gabriel felt his heart overflow with emotion. "Isabella Martinez," he said, using the name she had adopted after marriage. "You transformed my death sentence into a recipe for life. You taught me that legacy isn't about what you leave, but about how you love." 5 years after that first meeting in the mansion kitchen, Gabriel continued to defy medical expectations. The experimental treatment had been a partial success, not a cure, but a significant extension of his quality of life. He still had symptoms of Huntington's disease, but they progressed much more slowly than any doctor had predicted. "Maybe," Dr. Silva had commented at his last consultation, "love really is the best medicine." Isabella's school had become a national reference in inclusive education. They had opened 2 branches in Los Angeles and were planning a 3rd in San Francisco. Maria Clara, now 11, was among the best students in 5th grade, and Ana Beatriz, at 9, had discovered an extraordinary talent for music. "Dad," Ana Beatriz said one morning during breakfast, "can I play piano at the school's anniversary party?" "Of course, Princess," Gabriel replied, watching how the girl had grown, not just physically, but in confidence and joy. "And can I play that song you and Mum danced to at your wedding?" Gabriel looked at Isabella, who smiled with tears in her eyes. The song was "Can't Help Myself" by the Four Tops, a choice that had made everyone cry at the wedding party. You can, my love, Isabella said, but you have to practice a lot. After the girls left for school, Gabriel and Isabella sat in the kitchen where they had met, drinking coffee and planning the day. You know what I was thinking about this morning, Isabella said. What? Remember when you offered to buy the lot for the school? How angry I got? Gabriel laughed. I remember. You said I couldn't buy your independence. Right. And I was right at that moment. But now, she paused. Now I understand the difference. You weren't trying to buy me. You were trying to love me the only way you knew how at the time. Gabriel held her hand across the table. And you taught me better ways to love. We taught each other, Isabella corrected. Gabriel, do you know what I'm most proud of what we built? What? That it's not a salvation story. You didn't save me, I didn't save you. We chose each other. Every day, we continue choosing each other. Gabriel nodded, thinking how true that was. There were difficult days, when disease symptoms worsened, when children were difficult, when business faced problems. But on each of those days, they had chosen to stay, fight, build together. Isabella, he said, can I tell you a secret? Always. Sometimes I get scared that all this is a dream, that I'll wake up alone in that Los Angeles penthouse with that diagnosis and no hope. Isabella got up and went to him, sitting on his lap as she did when they were dating. It's not a dream, she said, kissing him softly. It's real life, complicated, imperfect, but real. How can you be so sure? Because dreams don't make your back hurt from working so much in the garden with the children, she laughed. Because dreams don't include you complaining that I leave hair in the bathroom drain. Gabriel laughed out loud, remembering their silly argument the previous week. And because, Isabella continued, becoming serious again, in dreams, love is easy. In real life, love is a choice we make every day, especially on difficult days. That weekend, the whole family went to Los Angeles to visit the first social housing building Gabriel had built. After reformulating his company, 50 families lived there, in simple but dignified apartments, with a community school on the ground floor and a recreation area on the top floor. This is where Dad learned to build real houses, Isabella explained to the girls as they visited the community school. What's the difference? Maria Clara asked. The difference, Gabriel said, kneeling to be at his daughter's height, is that before I built buildings, now I build homes. And what's the difference? Isabella and Gabriel exchanged a look and she answered, buildings are just walls and roofs. Homes are where people feel safe to be who they really are. That night, at the hotel in Los Angeles, after the girls fell asleep, Gabriel and Isabella went out to the room's balcony, watching the illuminated city stretch to the horizon. Do you miss it? Isabella asked. The life you had before? Gabriel thought about the question. His old life, luxurious penthouse, imported cars, exclusive parties, superficial relationships. No, he said, surprising himself with the certainty of the answer. That wasn't a life. It was just a very expensive existence. And now I have a life worth living, no matter how long. 2 months later, Gabriel received a call that left him stunned. Dr. Silver from Johns Hopkins, with news about his condition. Gabriel, the latest tests showed something extraordinary. The disease progression hasn't just slowed, it's practically stopped. What do you mean? We can't explain it completely. It could be a combination of the experimental treatment, lifestyle changes, stress reduction, increased physical and mental activity. But mainly, Dr. Silver paused, mainly, we believe it's what we call the placebo effect of love. Placebo effect of love. Studies show that people with solid relationships, clear life purpose, and low stress levels have stronger immune systems and better treatment response. In rare cases, this can significantly alter the course of degenerative diseases. Gabriel hung up in shock. When he told Isabella, she simply smiled. I'm not surprised, she said. Why not? Because I always knew you'd be okay. Not because I denied the disease, but because I saw how you changed when you started really living. That night, they talked until late about the future. a future that now seemed much longer and brighter than they had ever imagined. "What are we going to do with all this extra time?" Isabella asked playfully. "Live," Gabriel replied simply. "Raise the girls, expand the school, travel the world, grow old together, do all the normal and extraordinary things that people in love do. And if the disease starts progressing again, then we face that when it happens, together." The next morning, Gabriel woke before Isabella and went to the kitchen to prepare coffee, a ritual that had become special for them. While waiting for the water to boil, he looked out the window at the garden, where it all began. Donna Maria, now 67, was teaching Ana Beatriz to plant tomato seedlings. Maria Clara was reading a book under the jabuticaba tree. Isabella had gone for her morning run, a habit she'd developed to stay in shape and maintain mental sanity. All of that, the family, the love, the simple but full life, had been born from a death diagnosis. How ironic life could be sometimes. When Isabella returned from her run, she found Gabriel on the deck with 2 steaming cups of coffee. "Thinking about what?" she asked, sitting beside him. "About how you were right from the beginning." "About what?" "About everything. That love isn't about time, it's about intensity. That legacy isn't about money, it's about the lives we touch. That happiness doesn't come from having guarantees, but from having courage to take risks." Isabella rested her head on his shoulder. "You know what my biggest lesson has been all these years?" "What?" "That sometimes life breaks us completely to teach us how to rebuild ourselves more beautifully. When I lost Peter, I thought I'd never be happy again. When you discovered the disease, we thought time had run out. But actually, we were just being prepared for a better version of ourselves." Gabriel kissed the top of her head, breathing the familiar scent of her lemongrass shampoo. "I love you, Isabella Martinez. I love you, Gabriel Martinez. Forever." "Forever might be a very long time," he joked. "Then let's make each day so special it feels like an eternity." They sat there watching their daughters play in the garden, Donna Maria humming while working in the vegetable patch, the autumn sun painting everything with golden tones. It was a simple, common, absolutely perfect scene. Gabriel thought about the man he had been 5 years ago, rich, successful, but profoundly empty. Then he thought about the man he was now, still rich, but in ways that couldn't be measured in dollars. Rich in love, in purpose, in family, in moments like that one. If someone had told him, on that terrible day when he received the diagnosis, that he would be there 5 years later, married to the woman of his dreams, father to 2 wonderful girls, building a real legacy of love and social transformation, he never would have believed it. But life, Gabriel had learned, has its own plans, and sometimes those plans are more beautiful than anything we could imagine. "Mom! Dad!" Maria Clara shouted from the garden. "Come see, the jabuticaba tree is blooming." Gabriel and Isabella got up hand in hand to join their daughters. It was spring in Malibu, and the white flowers covered the branches like little stars. "It's beautiful," Ana Beatriz whispered, as if she were seeing magic happen. "It is," Gabriel agreed, but he wasn't looking at the tree. He was looking at his family, his true and most precious achievement. And in that moment, surrounded by everything that really mattered, Gabriel Martinez completely understood the meaning of legacy. It wasn't about the buildings he had constructed or the money he had accumulated. It was about the love he had planted, the lives he had touched, the family he had created. It was about having learned, almost too late, that the most valuable life isn't the longest, but the most lived, and that true love doesn't fear temporality. It embraces it, knowing that's exactly what makes it precious. As the jabuticaba flowers fell gently around them like natural confetti, Gabriel Martinez smiled. His legacy was secure, not in wills or foundations, but in the hearts of the people he had learned to love, and that legacy would last forever. So, guys, what did you think of this exciting journey of Gabriel and Isabella? A story that teaches us that true love isn't about having enough time, but about using well the time we have, right? Now it's up to you. Comment here below. From which city are you following this story? What touched your hearts the most in this narrative? Have you lived or know any similar love story? What other stories would you like to see here? Don't forget to hit that like button if the story moved you and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next incredible stories coming your way. See you next time, everyone.